Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with Lim Reviews. Now as you can see, I'm still in my kitchen, but if you've been following me for a while, you've noticed that I've always been changing my position of the camera. So today I have a pretty nice displays here and some lights at the back so that it looks more pleasing for you. Now, today we're going to talk about a very interesting device here that was just launched. This is the Redmi 10. Now the Redmi 10 is an upgrade to the predecessor, the Redmi 9, and in this version there is a couple of upgrades that I think you should know about before actually buying this device. Now in terms of pricing, this device has not been launched at the point of this video, so all I can say is I'm expecting the device to be launched at about 500 ringgit, or if you're in other regions in this world, it's about 120 US dollars. Right, so let's start off really quickly with the video itself, but before I do that, if you're new for the first time, I want to say hello to you. And of course, if you've been following my channel for quite a bit now, do drop a like or sub to the channel. It really helps out the channel. Alright guys, let's go on to the Redmi 10. So I've unboxed this guy right here. Obviously, I've been using it for a couple of days now. What came in the box was pretty standard. I have my device here, which is in white. It also came with the typical transparent case here. Nothing too much to talk about that, very squeegee. It also came with the Type-C cable, standard stuff. And last but not least, it does come with the charger in the box, which is right here. This is a 22.5 watt charger. That's all that came in the box. Alright, so now let's just jump into the device itself. Take a look at this. This is the Redmi 10, and when I first removed this device from the box, I was pretty impressed with the way it looks and how it felt. So for a device that I think will cost about 500 ringgit or 120 US dollars, I think it actually made a pretty good first impressions. Now bear in mind that the back panel here guys, it is a matte finish, although plastics, but it does feel solid and it's very smooth to the touch guys. So on the back here, it is also like sort of a gradient kind of feel. Notice that when I tilt it from side to side, you notice that it reflects light differently. So very subtle, but also very nice to look at the same time. At the top left corner right here, notice that we do have a pretty huge camera cutout that's housing the 4 sensors in there. I'll talk a little bit more about those sensors in a bit. But on the sides here, we have this silver frame. I'm not sure if you can see it through the camera, but it's all around the frame itself. It looks good. It might be plastics here, but it does feel very solid. Now, one thing I do need to point out here is that we still have our fingerprint scanner at the side. It is the side fingerprint scanner. It works very well. Now, at the bottom here, it has a speaker as well as a Type-C port, and at the top portion here, this is where it gets interesting. You have your headphone jack, which is a good thing, and you have another speaker at the top, guys. So if I'm not wrong, it is actually 2 physical speakers, one at the bottom and one at the top, and I must tell you, it is really loud. So this is not like other phones out there that uses the earpiece to blast it to get some kind of sound, but it is actually a physical speaker, so it's much louder than those you would get from an earpiece itself. Definitely want to applaud Redmi for having this here because it just makes the audio quality sound great. Alright, let's move on to the front guys. At the front here, we do have your very standard typical LCD panel. Thank goodness it is still a 1080p panel, and the good news here is that it comes with 90 Hz refresh rate. So things are just a little bit more smoother, but I do want to give a quick disclaimer here. The 90 Hz refresh rate is not to say the smoothest out there, and definitely your processor still plays a major point in getting those really fluid experiences. So in my opinion, I feel that this 90 Hz refresh rate does feel a little bit like 60 Hz, but I guess it's definitely better than nothing. Alright, so in terms of the display here, another thing I want to point out here is that it doesn't get very bright outdoors. So just like all other Redmi devices by Xiaomi itself, usually in the more budget or affordable price range, they don't really give you a very nice display. So yeah, the colors just looks a bit flash, and if you're outdoors, it just doesn't get bright enough for you to see under direct sunlight. So if you're like me, always indoors, that shouldn't be a problem. But if you're someone outdoors and you're looking for a spare phone to buy, I think you might want to consider about that not too bright LCD display. Alright, now let's move on to the next point and let's talk a bit about the performance of this guy right here. So the Redmi 10 right here is actually sporting the latest Helio G88 processor, and if you think about Helio G88, you might think about Helio G80 and G85. Now let me break this down to you. How different is the Helio G88 compared to the 80 and the 85? Now, to be honest, it is exactly the same chipset, but it does come with support for higher resolution cameras and a better resolution display. So essentially, in terms of performance, everything you can expect from the Helio G80 and 85 is actually the same on this guy right here. Now, I did a quick benchmark test and I'm going to show you guys the score here. If you notice, the score is very close to the results that I got on my G85 processor device. So it is only about 1 to 2% difference in terms of actual performance. So just in case you're wondering, like, is the G88 any good? Well, all I can say is it's about 1 to 2%, the same as the Helio G80 and 85 series. Now that I've got that out of the way, let me talk about how it actually feels like to use. And I'm going to break that down into two categories. In terms of daily use, definitely everything just runs fine. It is smooth enough for you to use your social media, Facebook, Instagram and all that. Watching videos on YouTube is fine as well. It is a bit sluggish, I would say, not the fastest out there for sure, but it works fine at this price point. I'm not expecting anything more. However, if you're talking about gaming, and that's the second thing that I want to talk about here, definitely this device can also game stuff like Mobile Legends, your PUBG, but don't expect to be able to game at the highest graphic settings because naturally it's just not powerful enough. This is a budget device and you can't expect this guy here to game like, at least a mid-range device and all that. So just take note about that in mind. Alright, so now done with the performance, next thing I want to talk about here is actually the cameras at the back. Now, if you take a quick look right here, yes, I did mention that it has a quad camera setup led by a 50 megapixel main sensor, an 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro and another 2 megapixel depth sensor. So, when I first heard that Redmi was going to be putting a 50 megapixel main sensor on a budget device like this, I was quite impressed. I was definitely very excited to test it out and see how good is it. I was thinking in my mind, like, could Redmi really be bringing the strong photography game to the budget and affordable line? Well, I guess I was wrong. So hear me out, guys. In terms of numbers, 50 megapixels does sound like the Mi 11 Ultra also has 50 megapixels, so it definitely sounds like it is a lot. And yeah, based on these sample photos that I'm going to show you guys right now, you can see that it has good details. It's quite sharp actually, but where it really fails here is in terms of the colors. The color reproduction is not really accurate. Sometimes it's flashed out, sometimes it's not saturated at all. And you can see here, guys, I think when you take photos, you might want to take photos of people as well. So I did take a few photos of myself, and you can see my face here just looks weird, guys. I mean, the colors came out totally wrong. It was flushed out. Yes, I did an outdoor test, and usually outdoor photos of people usually turns out the best because it has lots of light around you. But in this case, the Redmi 10 here kind of let me down with that kind of results that I'm seeing from the camera right here. So I just have to tell it honestly to you guys, if you're expecting the Redmi 10 to come with like a very impressive camera, you're not really going to find that out with this guy right here. However, in terms of usability, photo usability is definitely good enough. I mean, if you're going to take photos of like your dog, your cat, or maybe like the drain getting clogged and all that and want to send it to your management, yeah, the camera works fine. It will do that just fine. So just to set your expectations, I don't want you to be disappointed when you buy the Redmi 10 thinking that it comes with a great camera sensor, but at the end, it's not what you might want. Alright guys, that's it for the camera. Let's move on to the next point. We're going to talk a bit about the battery in here. So the battery in here is a 5000 mAh battery, and again, Redmi is doing a great job at keeping it so slim with such a huge battery in the back. What you need to note here is that it does have 18 watt fast charge, which is great. It charges up in slightly more than an hour. It was able to last on almost 2 days with one single charge as well. So I would say that the battery life on this guy is quite impressive. Again, if you're looking for something like a long battery life device, you might want to consider this guy right here because it does the job pretty well. Alright guys, I think that's pretty much what I want to share with the Redmi 10 right here. Overall, am I still happy with the device? I think it's fine. For the price of just 500 ringgit and compared to the previous Redmi 9, I think it is still a good upgrade here. Definitely, if you're already having a Redmi 9, I don't think you might want to change. But if you're in the market for a new budget phone or a spare phone, you might want to consider the Redmi 10 here. Alright, if you have any further questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Thank you all for staying until the end if you're still here. Again, don't forget to give the video a like, a sub, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!